with the, looking at the Cavs and the Bulls, kind of, middle of the pack right now in the East, is there any concerns that you've seen with either Chicago or Cleveland thus far that would make you think that they could lose to a Washington or Toronto in the second round of the playoffs?
For Chicago, it's definitely been injuries, and for people that aren't Derrick Rose, I think they kind of are, anything they get from him, they're kind of taking as like a bonus. But they've already had, I know Taj Gibson missed some games. They had Noah missing games now. Jimmy Butler missed games in the beginning of the year. So I think once they get everyone healthy, we'll start to see them talk the standings a little more. And then I think with Cleveland, I think they just have to do the same thing that the Heat did. They just have to learn how to play together. But I think theirs is going to be a little bit more of a bumpy road because I don't think Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love are the same type of players, like their mental makeup, and they've never made the playoffs, obviously, as Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade were.
With Kyrie and Love and LeBron, do you think that they need to make a move to bring in, a lot of the talk is they need to bring in a rim protector. There's not very many rim protectors available right now in the NBA. But who do you see a piece that they could move? Do you think it would be wise for them to move a Dion Waiters for, potentially a couple veterans or something like that?
I know there are people that would like to see him move, but if they trade him, then they literally have no bench scoring. I think that might be their biggest area right now. They just have no one that can score off the bench. They have a kind of a mixed match starting line to use. I know they kind of forced Sean Marion to play shooting guard, which doesn't really make sense. So I think that's kind of where their problems persist. They don't really have much help outside of, their big three. Obviously, Baruchel is a nice piece. Tristan Thompson is decent, but they really need a lot of help beyond those guys. Those guys are playing a lot of minutes right now, and I don't think they'll last throughout the season, especially if they want to make a run to the finals. They're not going to last playing. I think Kevin Love plays the least amount of minutes per game of the three right now, 36, and then Kyrie Irving and LeBron James are both essentially playing 38 minutes a game.
In Charlotte, what do you make of Lance Stevenson is able to be traded Monday? And there's already talk of him potentially going back to Indiana. Brooklyn's interested. How likely do you think it is we see Lance Stevenson move? And is there a bigger disaster contract? It's not, it's 3 years, $27 million. But for a team to so quickly decide to bail on a contract, can you think of another one in recent memory that was just like this?
Nothing at the impact that he has. I know, obviously, being a Knicks fan, you've seen them hand out a numerous amount of horrible contracts. I know, like Gilbert Arenas recently, but they didn't really, destroy a team's chemistry, I don't think, as much as what he seems to have done. Because the Hornets were a team everyone thought was on the rise after making the playoffs last season, and they really just have gone nowhere. Like you said, they're right down there with the Knicks, the Pistons, in the Eastern Conference, which is really shocking for a team that made the playoffs last year, and adding a player as talented as Lance Stevenson. But like we've discussed with the Knicks, he's just a guy that doesn't fit into what they're doing. It's a pretty mismatched role that they try to put together because there's not a lot of perimeter scoring. They don't shoot the three-pointer well, which is really what the NBA is all about now.
With Charlotte, you would feel like that was the missing piece, is a do-it-all shooting guard like a Lance Stevenson, and the chemistry is not there. And then you just I don't even know. Like it seems like they would be willing to just trade him for anything at this point, which is. Yeah, I know the Knicks, they've given out a lot of bad contracts, but never were they on the cusp, in December, willing to bail on it that quickly with a bad contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just one of those things, I think, that they realize it's not working, and they're not sure if it's going to get better the longer he's here. I think the longer they wait, the less value he probably has. Because I know that there's already teams that are asking for him to be packaged with like a first-round pick and stuff like that, just because they don't want to add something. Because he is kind of like a hard guy to fit in the locker room. We've seen the antics he has. He's kind of like, walks his own path sort of deal. I don't know how much of a team player he is, but it seemed to work with what they were doing in Indiana. So to see it just backfire and blow up as much as it is with the Hornets is kind of surprising. But I don't think they have the same type of veteran influence that guys like David West had on the Pacers.
Looking in the West, Golden State Warriors on a 15-game winning streak, out to a 20-2 start. How shocked are you by what Steve Kerr has done in just taking them to that next level so far? And do you think in the playoffs they can keep this going?
I'm probably as surprised as anyone is. I know this is essentially the same team that they had last year, other than a few small pieces here and there. I know they have like Sean Livingston now, but I think that one of the biggest things has been the evolution of Draymond Green, who's been playing for David Lee. He's been huge during their winning streak and all throughout the season. But I think that Steve Kerr just did a good job of not alienating the players, because that could have turned into a really bad situation. Because I know a lot of those guys like Mark Jackson to see him get fired. They probably weren't happy about it, but I think Steve Kerr has really, put to rest any of the worries that they had, especially with how well that they're playing.
Did you think? Yeah, a lot of people were, disgusted by the Mark Jackson getting fired. I mean, he didn't get along with the front office. I guess he had alienated some of the fan base too with some comments he's made from time to time. But yeah, I just didn't see, Steve Kerr. I mean, especially with what he did in the front office in Phoenix, kind of ruined that team short term while he was there with bringing in Shaq. With Golden State, I was just shocked that everybody thought that this guy was the fix, and I mean, I guess he has been so far.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I mean, I'm surprised, especially seeing like what you said, what he did with Phoenix. So I guess it's different coaching the players and evaluating them and see who fits. If he gets to coach them and kind of teach them and stuff, I think it'll work. And then just he seems to really have taken Stephen Curry, if it was possible, to just another level. He's been outstanding this season. But they've always had the pieces to be a good team. It's just a matter of keeping them all healthy, and then they'll get even better once David Lee gets back to the lineup for them also. Their biggest worry probably is keeping Andrew Bogut healthy, which is something that he hasn't really been able to do throughout his NBA career.
Well, and potentially trading David Lee once he gets back healthy. I mean, they could turn him into something, another power forward or something, I wouldn't be surprised by that either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen them play too much. Obviously, they're not on TV as much here out in New York, but I don't even know what they would really need if they were trading David Lee. I guess maybe like you said, maybe get another big man up front. I guess they're a little thin without him, but they're clicking so well right now. It's almost be hard to ruin that chemistry by bringing someone else in.
Looking at San Antonio, Dallas, kind of 16-7 for the Spurs, 17-8 for the Mavericks. Which one of those teams has impressed you more so far? I mean, the records aren't great, but which one of those teams do you think has the better shot come playoff time?
I think it's got to be the Spurs. As long as Tim Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, and Popovich are there, I think they're always going to cause a problem, especially with Kawhi Leonard starting to come into his own and become probably the guy that they're going to pass the torch on to once Duncan and Parker move on, and Ginobili, obviously. But as long as those three are there, I think they're always scary. Just with how much experience they have, they know how to win, and they could hang with any team if those three are still playing.
How many teams in the West do you think have a legit shot at winning the finals? Because I would say, I mean, you go 1 through 7, Dallas is the 7th seed. I think they have a legit shot to win it all. The only one I would say that, they're good, but I don't think they have a legit shot at winning it is probably Portland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all really good teams. Like you said, they probably all lead the Eastern Conference if they had a chance to. But I personally don't really like the Clippers too much. They have a lot of problems with their roster. They kind of guys that do too much. Like they're trying to force J.J. Redick and Jamal Crawford both into the starting line. I think that's going to hurt them come playoff time. So I wouldn't be too worried if I had to play them in the playoffs. But I think in the Western Conference, it really comes down to a lot of matchups, because this year it looks like Memphis could be getting home games instead of playing Game 7 on the road like they have been, playing as like a 5-6 seed. If they're up in the 2 seed, I think their team, that could give a lot of people problems. And then you still really do have to worry about Oklahoma City, because if they sneak in, they can compete with any team also.
It's really sad for teams like the Pelicans and Phoenix and Sacramento, who are all right now competing for the 8th spot. It's got to be deflating for them when you're like, oh yeah, it's not just between us three. Oklahoma City's coming. They got a 5-game winning streak already. They're just getting healthy. We're screwed. I mean, that's really what it boils down to, is those three are all screwed at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like, I honestly thought once Westbrook went down after Durant that pretty much ended their season. But none of those teams, like Phoenix, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Kings, were really able to like build too big of a gap. They'll probably struggle to move up past the 8th seed, but I don't see why they wouldn't be able to surpass the Pelicans or the Suns in the standings. When they're healthy, matched up, they're going to win those matchups more often than not. So you could see them sneak into the 8th seed, which would be really almost unfair for whoever wins the Western Conference, because if Durant and Westbrook don't miss the first, would they miss, like 15, 20 games, they're not going to be the 8th seed. So that's almost unfair for whoever finishes at the top of the Western Conference.
Is there anybody, East or West, that you've looked at so far early on this season where you didn't have, going into the season, you kind of thought they were going to be a team that surprised you so far in the East or West, other than the Warriors?
I actually like what the Kings are doing. I thought that until DeMarcus Cousins got hurt, I like watching them play. I think they're doing well out there. But I think in the Western Conference, but I think in the Eastern Conference, it would have to be the Bucks. If anyone picked them to be 12-12 right now, I would probably call them a liar, especially after what they did in the offseason, trying to get Jason Kidd. And that's another roster where they have 4 guys that play one position and only one that plays another, but he's figuring it out right now and actually has them in the 60 in the Eastern Conference, which I know people will say, oh, it's the only Eastern Conference, but still for a team who's pretty much not been in any type of playoff picture for the last couple of seasons, it's really surprising to see them up where they are now.
With Christmas coming up, best NBA day of the year, so much, morning till night for NBA. What is your Christmas like as far as NBA watching goes? Is there a game that you sit out of watching? Do you like these new what they've done with uniforms on Christmas Day? What's your Christmas Day philosophy? What do you do on Christmas Day for NBA watching?
Well, they always put the Knicks on, and that right off the bat just ruins it, because they haven't been closed. Last year they got crushed, so probably if they show up against the Wizards, it would be nice. But since that's the first one, it usually ruins it. But the Warriors and Clippers at the end of the night, the last one, that should be a really good game. The only games that really shouldn't be worthwhile watching are the ones that they put the Knicks and Lakers in, which I don't know why they're on national television so much. But about the jerseys, I'm just glad that they're not the short sleeves ones anymore. I really don't like how those look. I just don't see the point in them other than the NBA making money. But they always try to do something with these jerseys, and I don't understand putting the first name on, but at least they're not short sleeves.
Yeah, and at least they didn't do nicknames either. That would have been bad.
Yeah, I don't know why they do that stuff. It's just all, I guess it is just all making money, but I don't know why they have to change them around. Just leave the last names on like they always have been.
Yeah. Last thing before I let you go, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, the internets, all that good stuff?
Mm-hmm. On Twitter, you can find me at Teepster725. It's Teepester, 725. And then, like you introduced before, I write for the Empire Writes Back on the fan-sided network. You can find all the work I do there. It's a lot of Knicks stuff. I do some Giants, football, Jets football, anything really New York related, but it's a lot of Knicks mostly.
A lot of miserable New York talk is what you're doing right now.
Yeah, it's a rough time to be writing about New York sports. Since I don't do hockey, I think the Islanders and Rangers are doing pretty well. I'm not really sure, but it is really a tough time. I know writing some of the baseball stuff, some of that stuff's fun because they're in the off-season after you just make up crazy rumors about the teams. But other than that, it's been a struggle writing about the the Knicks especially, but at least the Giants have Odell Beckham Jr. That's been fun to write about the last couple of weeks.